Hey guys, so welcome back to another commentary from a D-list black belt. I've got myself and I've got Evan. Funnily enough, he's actually one of my students. He's a purple belt, very good. And so he wanted to sit in with me for a commentary, so he might be asking some good questions. Maybe not, probably not. That's fine. No, I'm sorry, I love you. Um, Firstly, thank you so much, guys, for all the support so far. 44 subscribers is really cool. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing because that's a really cool way for me to grow my channel. I feel really stoked with that. And I think we have something like 300 views on the first video, which
Something like that, yeah.
something like that. So it's pretty cool for me. I mean, like I know that that's not very much on a YouTube point of view, but that's a lot for me, and I'm pretty excited about that. So thank you so much, guys. If you're enjoying the content, please give it consider giving it a subscribe and a like, and it really helps me out. Thank you so much. Now, what I got for you today. Get into it. What I've got for you for today is Nicholas Meregali versus Eric Munis. Is it Munis?
Munis, yeah.
Munis, yeah. This was the absolute final of the 2023 IBJJF Pan Championships. I believe that Meregali actually won both of his divisions via submissions, pretty much a clean sweep. Is that?
Yeah, so Meregali won all of his matches up to this point from his division and the open weight submissions all the way. I'm not sure about Munis's record, but Munis was the gold medal for his, which is the super heavyweight, and Meregali was the ultra heavyweight.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
how
So they're one weight class difference more or less, and now they're in the absolute finals, and so really good athletes. And I believe that Meregali wasn't actually training gi for quite a while before he did this, and then he just jumped into it. So we'll see how it goes. Now, again, I'll try and take your feedback. I posted to Reddit and they gave me some good feedback about letting it run for a little bit. So I'll try and let that happen so that we can see what's going on a bit more. But I will be skipping stoppages because, we don't need to see them reset. So let's try and full screen this. Just as actually a disclaimer as well. I do just pull these videos off of YouTube, so I'm not on the Flow Grappling website. I'm actually on their YouTube channel, which I can watch for free. Everyone can watch this for free. If you want to be watching the matches as they come out, the day they come out, I really encourage you to support Flow Grappling. Like, subscribe to their channel. They're really worth it. They're doing a lot for the sport. So, show support where it needs to be shown, I suppose. But all of these matches are available on YouTube for free. So, if you want to watch them on your own, you're more than welcome to. You just search for Meregali versus Munis. Now, they're both relaxed. They both have something to prove, and this grip fighting is already really good. So you see, I said this actually, funnily enough, with the first video that I did was also encompassed Meregali. You can see. Oh, sorry. 1 second. Where's my window? There's my window. There we go. You can see their elbows are close to the body. Munis's are a little bit further away. There's a bit of a gap. Meregali has his elbows a little bit closer. There is a bit of a gap here, but they're not flared out. They're not flared out. This is really good body placement. Munis's legs, probably a little bit too wide. I mean, there'll be reasons for both. There's reasons for both, and I could probably talk for 30 minutes odd on the foot positioning and the distance and the hand placements alone, so we won't bother with this. But what I was wanting to get at is that Meregali goes for a double grip immediately, and Munis immediately responds with a double grip of his own, or reverse that. So they're not letting each other get the advantage. And you can see that Munis here has a very clear idea of what he wants to do. So he gets his grip, and then immediately he strips the other grip because he doesn't want Meregali to have the collar grip up here. And Munis has a very clear idea of what he's comfortable with and what he wants to be going into. And so what this allows is it allows for more relaxation, I suppose is the right way to be putting this, in the positions where you're not wasting time, hunting different grips. And I mentioned this with, what's his name? Merino versus Meregali, where Merino was just wasting time swapping grips and grips and grips. Munis knows exactly what he wants and he's going exactly for it. And so this is a really good example of high-level grip fighting as it's meant to be. Now, Munis is hunting. You can see he's hunting for his head positioning to be lower than Meregali's. And he's getting his grips, and he wants his head positioning to be on the inside space. Now, if you don't know what the inside space is, it's this space here on the inside of the chest, like 4 points to 4 points. In the last video, I spoke about the points of the human body of control. You want to be fighting for the inside space. And if your head, the top of it, is below their chin line, pushing their head up, you'll be having a much easier time of taking them down, especially when they're attached to you with like this big overwrap grip. And you'll see just before Munis was going for, with this hand, I believe, he goes for like an overwrap for the belt because his head positioning is already pristine. And Meregali does this really, yeah, there you go. You can see it. He wanted this. And Meregali does a really good job of recognizing when the position's lost. And he wouldn't want to be fighting from there. Because if he did, he would be losing really quickly. And so he backs away as he's pushing. And he's not allowing the grip to settle. So you see how the fingers are still open. They're not closed yet. So that Munis is not settled into the position and it's not like a grindy slugfest. This is where Merengali's putting his physical effort in, because he's bailing out of the position, like I touched upon, and it's his fight IQ. You know, he's making really good decisions to fight from advantage rather than saying, okay, whatever, we'll fight from here. Yeah, now, what a beautiful attempt. So, the Uchimata is often called the tall man's throw. Now, it's not really dependent on your head being low. It's dependent on your hips. Oh, what have I done? Your hips being close. Now, you can see that Meregali has a really strong grip, and he's got a really strong grip at the back and on the sleeve. And also, Munis's arm is across the center line. So this hand here is not blocking the hip. So he's not going to be stopping Meregali from coming in around the corner and using his right leg here to hook, to lift the leg as he tries to drag back down and around the corner with his left hand. And we'll see that in a second. Now, the reason why this is such a good throw for Meregali is I believe he's 6'2", so he's pretty tall. And I'm 6'2" as well, so I know how hard it is for you to get low, and especially when you're quite tall off the ground, it's really hard to get low quickly. And so the Uchimata is a really good option for us tall turkeys, because you don't need your head on the inside space as much. You just need to have really good distance management, which Meregali does. And so he steps in and he hooks. Now he does this really cool thing. So he's trying to weave up as this hand pushes in and down again as this hand starts pulling. Now you'll see that I actually missed this. Munis has the grip. But because Munis has the grip, Meregali has the connection. So yeah, Munis can let go, but what Merengali's done is he's pulled his hand down, and that's ragged Munis's hand down because Munis has got the grip. And so Merengali's done this really cool thing where he's kind of said, well, I may as well be holding on to you, and I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. Because even if Munis lets go of this now, this is such a deep throw. Look how tall off the floor his foot is. And like, look at Merengali's posture is going forwards. He's looking down and he's starting to push around the corner. This has a very high likelihood of succeeding. And so it's actually very clever. And I really like what Meregali does is he doesn't worry so much about the perfect opening. He just takes the opening and then makes it perfect. which is a really valuable skill set and mindset to have, is just having a go at the takedown. Something you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, you know, that sort of thing. So he's hopping around the corner. He's doing this really good job. Now, Munis bails out for the base, and he's apparently insanely flexible. Look at that angle. That leg's straight, and then this leg is like almost straight out. You know, I'd be crying a little bit or being thrown right now, because that's insanely flexible to me. And then you can see this beautiful angle of Meregali. He's also very, very flexing. Look how low to the ground his head is. If you want a pristine example of how to do an Uchimata for Jiu-Jitsu, this is it. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to hop closer as he goes around the corner. And the idea is that this hand wants to be connected to this hand, pulling it this way to complete the rollover so that Munis will land flat on his back down here. But because Meregali went for it and tried to make an imperfect entry perfect, he's not going to get it. But that's fine, because you have to try stuff, and he went for it, right? So they scramble up to their feet, and they go back in for their grip fighting. Now you can see that they're both trying to fight for that inside space. Now this is something quite prevalent, is that you see how they've both got their forehead to forehead. They're like Pachycephalosauruses, my favorite dinosaur there is. Evan's laughing in the background. It's like the if you ever seen Jurassic Park 2, it's the bone-headed dinosaur that punches the guy through the car. They're like headbutting each other, you know. And what this does is it creates a friction between them, and kind of is like a mutually assured destruction in a way. Maybe not the best example, but it stops either one of them from getting underneath the other because there's a friction between them. So they're kind of agreeing to a stalemate between the two of them punching into each other. And this makes it very difficult for them to get underneath each other's chins, which is perfectly fine for both of them because they're both really good at grinding out advantage. You know, just from what I've seen already, Munis would absolutely destroy Marino. It would absolutely destroy him, kind of the same way that Meregali did. So now what they're trying to do is they're trying to fight for incremental advantage, and you can see it with the slight little twitches in their fingers and slight little adjustments with their shoulders. And yeah, there's like big movements here, but if you back it up for a second, just really pay attention to what's happening in this space with this hand and this hand. And then the shoulders as well, when the shoulders up the top. Just tiny little movements, making little advantages, which allow for grabbing attempts. Now again, Meregali did this good job of backing away so that Munis didn't get up and over onto the belt to allow forward leverage. And he's got a really, really strong grip in here. So in this position, Meregali is actually kind of losing in a way. It's a little bit stalematey because this elbow blocks the hand from going further through to grab the belt. But if Munis manages to shift his right hand to the belt, all of a sudden, because he's got the left hand on Merengali's, his left hand on Merengali's left hand, it opens up this entire channel backspace for his hips to start curling around the corner. Because what will happen is if he's on the belt, he'll pull, but going across the body that way as he shifts his hips all the way around. And then what will happen is he'll be in danger of attacking the back, or because Meregali will have to turn to face him and rotate his hips away, he's going to open up a lot of space for the tackle. And so Meregali knows this, and he's trying to stunt it with the elbow. And so what he does instead is, I believe he pulls guard. Yeah, there you go, which is the best option. And now he didn't have the best grip, so that Munis's posture isn't broken. You know, it's up here somewhere. It's not broken, so he can't go in for immediate advantage. And Munis's body positioning is really solid and strong, so he's not really allowing much space underneath the arms. and you'll notice that his hips are back here somewhere, and Merengali's hips are in close. That's quite a fair way. I want to say, I don't know, a meter, thereabouts. It's quite a fair way. So Merengali's in a guard, yeah, but it's not a good guard. It's very neutral. You know, he's not threatening sweeps or anything yet. Yeah, nice. So this is something that you could actually almost teach a 2-hour seminar on. Just this little sequence. Let me play it for you again. So it goes from minute 110 to minute 119, 120. That 10-second bit, I could teach a 2 or 3 hour seminar on. I want you to pay attention to what both of these athletes are doing. We're going to focus on Meregali first, then we'll focus on Munis. What Meregali wants to do, keeping in mind that I just mentioned that his hips are away, you know, like oh, down here and then coming out this way, that sort of thing. What Meregali wants to do is he wants to get his hips underneath Munis's. So the concept of the sweep, now Evan told me not to do this, or said I went into teacher mode last time, but I don't care. First part of the concept of the sweep is get underneath the other person. So if your hips are here and theirs are here, you want to get your hips underneath theirs. Second part of the concept is take away their basing mechanisms. So if their feet are on the ground, you want to lift them up in the air or stop them from being able to post out as effectively. Third part of the concept of the sweep is to take them into the dead zone, which is wherever they don't have bases. So for example, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are Munis's bases right now. Meregali has 1, and at the moment he's working on getting his hips underneath so that he can start collecting either an ankle or the other collar or Della Riva wrapping or just placing both feet on the hips to lift. It doesn't matter. Let's take a balloon sweep for an example where he does place both on the feet and lift. If Munis gets completely off the ground, all of a sudden he has no basing mechanisms, and the dead zone will be wherever he can't base, which is most likely over the head because you can have control of the hands to punch them in. So the battle becomes about the first part of the concept, because they're still grip fighting the whole way through this process, you'll notice, but it becomes about your distance management as well. So Merengali's trying to get underneath Munis's hips, and Munis keeps on resetting back. Watch. There you go. And he's going to do a forward hip escape. Look how far his hips are away. He's going to do a forward hip escape, trying to get in here somewhere. He drags himself in now. There you go. And he drags himself in again now. And both times, what Munis does is he backs away because he understands that if Meregali gets his hips to here, he'll now be in danger of sweeps and or triangles and or omoplatas, etc. So he drags them in there. And Munis backs away again. And he's trying to strip the grips. And so it's really, really impressive guard play and really impressive distance management, actually, what they're both doing. It's a very high level. So they get a stoppage. The ref checks it. We'll just skip ahead to wherever it is that they start from, and then they go from here. And it's largely the same, you know. Really nice grip breaking. Evan actually pointed this out to me, is that he's using his lassile leg to break the grip off of the sleeve, and he does it consistently, as you can see. It's really, really nice what he's doing. What I should also mention as well, if we back up just a second, is that this lassile style is kind of what Della Riva becomes at the highest level, is that you very rarely get the leg in behind the knee. Your Della Riva kind of becomes like a disconnected Della Riva type guard at this very high level because of their ability to go forwards and his ability to go backwards Merengali's ability to go forwards, for example, and Munis's ability to go backwards, the distance management's too hard now, because you don't want to have your knees start to separate from your body if you're playing the guard on the bottom. And so the best that you're going to get, if you can't get underneath them, is this arm wrap style guard. But in order for Munis to start passing, he needs to engage forwards, which will give you the De La Riva wrap and thus a better guard. So it's kind of like a stalemate type process, and it comes down to who makes the first mistake. And so if you watch, he'll do like a bunch of leg weaves, and then they'll both play on the peripherals. Like look how far away from each other they are. They're playing on the peripherals of a guard rather than committing to a guard, which is actually very, very high level. And so even the distance management is worth stopping the video for. So he plays this and he gets multiple grip breaks. He's going for collar grip, but Munis is doing this really good thing of neutralizing the collar grip by punching down. So Meregali resets it with he lets go of the collar grip, pulls his hand backwards, weaves over the top, breaks the grip off, re-goes for the collar grip. Now, this is what we call maintenance actions. Evan, how much have I covered maintenance actions with you?
A lot.
What are maintenance actions, Evan, while I have a quick sip of water?
So maintenance actions are leg weaves, which is a big one. Obviously grip breaking, grip fighting, and shrimping when necessary.
Yeah, so shrimps, weaves, hip twists, hip rotations, like your ability to lift and drop.
And not necessarily like explosive shrimps, just like little shrimps to maintain distance, like you said.
Yeah. Anything that maintains your guard. It's just like maintenance actions in the guard that you need to repeat indefinitely. The clearest and best example we have is exactly what Meregali is doing right now. That little leg weave is a prime example of a maintenance action. Because if he were, say, I don't know, a really bad athlete at this level, can't think of anyone specific, let's say Marino, and just went, okay, no, I'm going to fight from here because I have the grip now and I want to fight from here, he would just lose. And so he goes, well, I'm going to leg weave, I'm going to break the grip, I'm going to let go of this, I'm going to let go of this first, pull it in, weave, break the grip, then go for it again. And then my window of opportunity will be in between when I grab and when you grab. And if I don't hit that window of opportunity, guess what I'm going to do? Let go of this collar, pull the hand in, weave, break your grip, re-grab. And my window of opportunity will be between when I grab and when you grab. And if I don't get it, Evan, guess what I'm going to do again?
The same thing.
Ad infinitum, yeah. And so this is really what high-level jiu-jitsu boils down to, if you're ever wondering. It's not really as illustrious as what people think. It's just kind of who's most stubborn, really. Anyway, so he does these really nice actions, and you see that Munis was going for his own grip here to try and break the sleeve grip so he could advance. But he had to respect more. Now, you see this as well, is that Munis has started to respect that, and Meregali switched tracks, and he used the weave to get into the De La Riva to drag his hips forward. Watch. Oh, sorry. My apologies. I misremembered. Because Munis was still... he tried to go for the same thing, but Munis was gripping on quite tight. He goes same trick as before with the Uchimata. He uses Munis's own grip to pull, and so he takes his leg out and then catches with his toes and then pulls his hand backwards and uses his toes to drag his hips forward so he gets underneath. Apologies. And now, look where his hips are in relation to Munis's. He's right underneath him now, and he's in prime example for sweeps and attacks, which is actually what we see in a second. Now, Munis recognizes that he's in danger, and so he's going to go back into his own maintenance actions from the top, which is distance management. You see how he backs away. But he allows this disconnect, and he goes for the pass quickly, but because Meregali was already onto the collar grip, it's very hard to beat the guard from out the back when you're down a grip and a connection. You see. Yeah, nice. So what happened there was, this was the first mistake from Munis, is that he went too early. And you remember how I just said it's a game between who gets who loses patience first. In this instance, Munis lost patience first. Because Meregali still has this grip and this connection, Munis backs out and he lets go of his other hand and he backs out. And then he tries to dive in around the corner as Merengali's using his left hand to reach in for the collar again. So Merengali's already up 1-2 and going for third by the time that Munis is grabbing his first two. And so he closes the distance for Meregali, but he's not done it from a position of neutrality or advantage. He's done it from a position of, I'm going to try and out athletic you, like I'm going to try and outspeed you, which is just not the right way to go about it when someone has an ability to slow you down, especially in the gi. In no gi, it's fine because it's really hard to get a grip that will stop the other person from moving. But in gi, it's really easy to do that. So it's not the right way to go about passing by and large. And so this is the first mistake. And so you can see he goes for the pass, but he's got 1 and 2 connections now. But Merengali's got a hand in on the sleeve. He's not let it go. Other hand will be on the collar. This foot's a connection. This foot's a connection. So he's got 2v4. And so Merengali's actually really ahead right now. And they're fighting, and you see how Munis tried to distance manage again. But because Meregali has this really beautiful weave, he's got a high-low guard, so one leg's high, one leg's low, plus the hand connections. And so what will happen is Munis will have to stand up, which will allow the space for Merengali's hips to come in and for the attack. And so he only gets attacked in the Omoplata because he went too early and made this mistake. And that's the reason why he lost this whole position and he's getting attacked right now. Is because he lost patience. So he's doing a really good job. That was a really nice movement, what happened there. So Munis, that is grip fighting here, trying to pull his head up as he pushes the leg down. And what will happen is, because the legs are a loop with the arm in between, so I'll do it over here, there's a loop with an arm in between. If you push the loop down, it just slides off the arm, and that's what Munis is trying to do. But Meregali has got his own ability to mess around with grips. Now he does this really cool thing where he jams his knee outwards, which takes Munis off balance this way. Which prevents him from defending too much. Yeah, and then because his posture gets broken right down and he has to base so he doesn't get swept, there's a huge window of opportunity now for Meregali to start capitalizing on the sweep, which is what happens. He gets his solid grips in. Now this is really, really cool what Merengali's done here. Generally this is a no-no, sticking your hand in between the legs. The reason being is that if the person on top manages to get their leg far enough underneath your elbow to the point where your elbow is behind their knee, then they do a forward roll, you'll get ragged up on top and then be in the bottom of an omoplata yourself. So generally, putting your hand in between their leg is a big no-no. But what Merengali's done is he's changed the story here by connecting to the sleeve. Because he's connecting to the sleeve, and you see Munis is going for it, he's trying to lift the elbow up, or maybe he's trying to push the hip down, I'm not sure. But because he's connected to the sleeve, he gets to pull backwards and chomp his elbow down and in, using the sleeve as a counter lever. So all of this space in here becomes tighter, all of the space in here becomes tighter. And now this is really easy for Meregali to start donkey kicking away and then doing a sausage roll. And we'll see what happens. Or, even better, doing a backward roll. Because what happens here is exactly what I said would happen with the concept of the sweep. His hips are underneath now. They're very close. So like from here to there sort of thing. He has two bases. So the dead zone is no longer out that way. So if he was to try and push that way with his legs, this foot would just go out. This hand would just go out. So instead, what he does is he does like a little kick and then a backward roll, because the dead zone is over this side on this point of Munis's body, because he has no ability to put his left hand or his left foot out to base to stop himself from falling. And so Meregali does this really cool little sweep where he does a backward roll over his right shoulder there, and he's going immediately in for a triangle. Now, this is a very, very difficult position to play. The only saving grace for Munis is that Meregali decided to put his hand in between his legs. And that's the only thing that's saving him right now, because he gets to push away with his own legs. Now, what I would be doing if I were Meregali here, I believe firmly that continuing for the triangle is actually a mistake. But that's just because that comes down to my ethos of position over submission. What I would be doing if I was Meregali is here, I would be sitting my bum down, pulling my head up, trying to free the right hand over to the other side of the body, and then either establishing like a diagonal control, sprawling my legs out and taking a side control, or after I got my arms free, that's when I'd be trying to look for the back step. I wouldn't be going for it from here. And it's my opinion that this is a mistake, because Munis has this grip on the pant legs, which is making it kind of too hard to do. And then what happens is he gets to sit up and shrimp out a little bit, and then he's coming forwards, which is forcing Merengali's head on shoulders into the ground, and his hips are getting lifted and his knees getting lifted. So now he's kind of lost the sweep a bit. He's lost the position a little bit. So really what he should be doing is putting this back knee on the ground and then trying to sit up. But what Munis has done, and again, saving grace for him, is that because Meregali decided to put the hand underneath the leg, he's gotten his own counter grip. So even if Meregali wanted to do that, I guess it's actually not really that much of an option. So I suppose with that in mind, he's actually making the right decision now. But that's from arguably a previous mistake he's forced into making this decision rather than being given freedom. Yeah, I said it. He made a mistake. Even champions make mistakes. So now, they both do this really, really well. You see that little creeping advance. His hand went back here, and it ended up here. It's exactly what he did against Marino. He just did a creeping advance, incremental advance. And what Munis is trying to do is a creeping advance, incremental advance. That's why people think that gi is boring. But if you think gi is boring, you don't have appreciation for jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I said it. And so they're both, you see how Merengali's trying to come in, Munis is trying to go out. And they're both trying to frame and use their resources, one leg, one hand, shoulders and hips, to accomplish the goal of moving away and moving in. And if Meregali manages to get in before Munis can move away, Meregali wins. If Munis can manage to move away before Meregali gets in, Munis wins. And so they're just figuring out the puzzle, and what they're doing is they're presenting different problems to each other, which is why it's okay to be swapping the grips backwards and forwards here. Because Munis is beating the grip. Munis is, say, beating this grip, so Meregali goes to beat this grip. Now that he's beat this grip, he goes back to this to start dragging himself in. Munis then comes back onto this to push it away. This disconnects. Because it's disconnected in that moment, he goes in behind the knee to push the knee away, so he doesn't maintain that advantage. Meregali goes back to the collar to pull himself in, so Munis has to go back to the sleeve. And this type of grip fighting is perfectly acceptable, but that's where a lot of people go wrong when they think that they're just trading. Like, there's a difference between trading grips for no reason and then trading grips for a reason, because there's a lot going on to change in this position on like a half-second by half-second basis, where this grip is now no longer the best, but behind the knee is. But then this grip becomes the best, and behind the knee is no longer the best. And so they're always trading for the best grips all the time. It's really skillful and really cool to see. We've got Danaher's bold head. If we ever got lost in a forest with him, Evan, we could shine a light. You know, that's the torch, and this is the light. And then we could get SOS. Anyway, sorry. Do you reckon he moisturizes?
I'd be more surprised if he didn't. Look at him.
Hey, question for you, Evan. When Danaher washes his face, all the way back. How far up do you reckon he goes?
All the way.
All the way? Okay. What do you reckon, guys? When John Danaher washes his face, how far up his head do you reckon he goes? Do you reckon he goes just to where his hairline would be, or do you reckon he goes all the way to the back?
I mean, he's a man seeking perfection, so he wouldn't just stop at the recommended, agreed upon.
The standard.
specifics.
The standard, yeah. Okay.
So, no, I have no knowledge.
I reckon he moisturizes his head. I would.
It is very shiny.
All right, so anyway, I digress. Munis did this really cool thing. Now, this is not only hyperflexy, so well done him. The same battle's going on right now. This is just a different camera angle. But Munis manages to beat the leg by pushing it away enough that he manages to get his hips slightly out and angled up. Now, what happens here, because you see how his knee came out and his foot went in, he now has an opportunity to go for something that is actually very rare. This is simultaneously the best thing to do, but also a mistake. But in this position, it's the best thing to do. Now, I'll explain what I mean in a second, but sometimes your best course of action isn't good. It's just the best course of action you have. Now, hear me out. It gets him out of this position. It's really good. He gets his foot in. He gets his foot in on the inside. Now, Meregali, if he were to try and commit over the top, he's just going to get swept back this way, because Munis's leg is like this on the inside of Merengali's leg, and he'll just lift and roll, and then Merengali's back will be put flat on the mats again. Really, really good thing to stop what's happening currently, but you'll see what I mean in a second. So yep, he pulls the leg. He pulls the leg, and now, as you can see, exactly what I said, Meregali can't maintain his position. He has to sit down now. He's being forced. Now, keep in mind, that whole exchange that we just saw was brought about because of Merengali's decision to grab in between the legs rather than in front of the legs. If he had grabbed in front of the legs, he would have come up on top, probably finished the triangle, probably finished the sweep at least, had side control, be fighting from a really dominant position. So that was the mistake he made that led him to this position here, and now his work's cut out for him. And now he's in the bottom of it's a 50-50 kind of guard. You know, it's pretty equal because they both have grips, they both have legs through, these legs are neutralizing each other. This hand's on this ankle, this hand's on this ankle. This hand's on the other ankle, but this elbow's on the sleeve. You know, they're fighting each other. They're pretty equal here. But because this is the advantage, excuse me. Sorry. Because Munis is on top because he's the one completing the sweep. So he has the advantage because of this grip on the ankle and this shin on the inside of Merengali's knee. But it becomes an issue because in order to get up, he needs to draw it back down and underneath him. So what Meregali needs to do now is just stamp his foot in, and then it's really, really hard for Munis to get up, which is exactly what I meant by it will be a mistake as well as the best thing to do. Now, that's an important thing to note as well in your jiu-jitsu, is just because something's the best thing to do at the time doesn't mean it's like easy to follow on from. And just because it's a mistake now doesn't mean it will be a mistake in a second. if that makes sense.
Would be like you're escaping a choke just to end up in the bottom of the mount. It's not great, but it's
better. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Exactly. Like you escape an armbar or something, you end up in bottom of mount, or you escape back control, end up bottom of mount. Yeah, you allow mount, but you're not getting choked from back anymore. So it's not a mistake, even though it's not gotten you on top. And so now he's going to have this hard time. Oh, well, okay, he just makes it look easy because he reefs it out. But if Meregali fought that harder, he was having a hard time of getting that foot out. Now, it becomes a mistake as well because Meregali decides to let go in favor of the collar grip to go directly into a triangle. Now, this is the issue, is that he has to be aware of. This foot is the only thing stopping Merengali's hips from latching up and over the shoulder, because you notice this right leg is underneath the arm. This left leg is really close to the top. And so the golden rule, Evan, both hands in, both hands out, never one hand in, one hand out. And so he's got one hand in, one hand out, really, in the guard, and like the leg kind of counts as the hand in at the moment. So he pulls that leg out, he's going to get triangled or Omoplata again, which I believe is what happens immediately. So Meregali baits this, and he goes, right, you can have this. He sits up, fighting it just enough so that Munis says, great, there's an opportunity, reaches his hand up, and look at all this space here. Look at that space. That's a huge amount of space right there that he can just shoot his leg through, which is exactly what he does. And because, you'll notice, he never let go of this grip at the back, he still has the elbow and the leg control. So really, maybe it actually was a really good decision, and maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about, but there's a reason why he's the best in the world and I'm not. So, stands to reason. And he immediately latches up the Omoplata. Now, Munis is trying to back away from it, like back out of it. So he goes for triangle, Omoplata back to triangle, and he's just dragging himself in. And then he gets reconnected and sweeps. And drags himself up and over the top. Now, this is exactly the type of position that I was talking about before, with the knees underneath him, and he's sitting heavy and down. This is what I would have done before, instead of mucking around with all of the trying to triangle. And I would have just worked from advantage. But I think Meregali was kind of disrespecting his opponent, if I'm honest, because he knows he's the best. And so I think he just saw an opportunity to potentially go for the finish and didn't respect his opponent enough that his opponent would defend it well. So he went for like a subpar attack, thinking, oh, well, my opponent won't be that good, instead of going for position over submission attack. So he gets this really dominant grip. He's now incrementally advancing. His fingers were here, now they're here, to get the grip. So Munis still has his grip on the sleeve at the back somewhere. He wants to break that now. And Munis is trying with both hands to keep the grip, because if Merengali's hand comes back on the inside of the thigh, Munis now has a chance to counter Omoplata him, which is, again, why I maintain that it's not a good thing to have your hand on the inside of the legs. But Meregali is doing this really good thing of just using leverage and creepy crawly fingers just to gain advantage slowly over time, which is something he's really, really good at. So Munis is trying his best to figure out the puzzle, but what Meregali is doing is he's like side shuffling his hips and lifting slightly over time, so that this position is encouraging Munis's legs to go that way, and his knee will pop out the back eventually, I'm pretty sure. And then this sets up Merengali's back step with this back leg going back around the corner for a triangle. And he's just walking into him over time, and he's readjusting grips, being heavier and heavier and heavier. And you see how he's like trying to pull up, which encourages Munis's head to come through the legs. Munis has to really power out of it. It doesn't really work. Yeah, really nice hip movements here. So Meregali manages to stay on top, because what he's doing is he's rolling his hips in, and then he's doing like this knee going to the ground, and he's sprawling out. And so Munis will be really kind of using a fair bit of effort here, I'm pretty sure. And he manages to break the grip and re-guard, but he's underneath now. And Merengali's got such good pressure play. You see how the difference in their styles, Evan, of how they're playing guard. Look how close Meregali is and his hips are versus Munis, who was out here. But because Meregali gained the advantage because the grip broke and then he went straight into like an underhook, and the knee dropped in, he's pressuring Munis to the point where he now no longer has power because his knee's up here somewhere. So he's stopping him from moving effectively. And because Munis has no connections, he has one connection to, this will be a connection in a second, this will be a connection in a second, this is a connection. The foot's driving in, so he has 1, 2, 3 plus gravity to 1. So Munis is actually losing really badly here. So Meregali smells blood in the water, basically, and he goes in for the pass. And he's not allowing any breathing room at all. And it's really, really nice. So he knows he wants this grip to come out so that he can get on top. Munis was trying his best to keep it. But because he's ahead now, Munis is in the air, so he can't move effectively. Meregali is still based on the floor. He's got one knee on the hip, which will be hard to move the hips. So he's going to be coming into a guard. Munis does this really cool Granby roll, opens the guard out, but immediately Merengali's looking to get underneath the guard. And you see how he immediately goes in for the advantage. He's pressuring in the entire time. Munis manages to shuffle shoulder walk. So he did this really cool thing there, where he just like shimmied his shoulders back as he was pushing his legs away, so he gained the space, distance management again. He didn't do the Marino thing of trying to fight a lost position. He just bailed out of the position. And now we've got some really, really nice grip fighting and pressure maintenance and things. So the reason why that didn't work that well is because look at Munis's leg and look at Merengali's leg. Munis's hips are back here, and in order to get up around the shoulders, they need to travel out from underneath the roadblock that is Merengali's shin and up, which gives a lot of reaction time for Meregali just to go tall, which is what he does. And then because Munis can't get the lock up, he doesn't bother with it. And so Merengali's putting a lot of alternating pressure in. So he went this side and then he's going this side to try and look for an opening to pass here. And you see how he's doing this really gorgeous thing. Munis has the grip on the sleeve at the back. Meregali goes, okay, I'm going to use that against you because this is now a solid connection that I can use to pressure your leg. And honestly, that's genius. That's a genius use of that grip, because it says, as long as you want to keep that grip, I'm going to use it against you. And it's not going to be your advantage, even though I don't have a counter grip of my own, I just have a connection. I'm still going to prevent you from using that to your fullest effect. This hand around the back stops Munis from being able to pull in and using his lassile grip, Sorry guys, it's almost 10 p.m. I'm a bit tired. His lassile guard to its fullest effect, because he wants the hand on the inside of the thigh, elbow back around the corner, palm up to the sky. And so just from his body positioning alone, Merengali's started to really neutralize the effectiveness of this entire half of Munis's guard, and he's using his own grip against him, which is really, really cool. And then he's using his knee in here and his hand to pressure down, which makes it really hard for Munis to move his hips sideways. And so he's going to be really suffering in this guard, and he's probably going to open up a fair bit of opportunity in a second. Nice. A little bit of plumber's crack there. That movement, I don't want this video to go on too long, but this little sequence of Merengali's pushes this one in, steps over the top, backs out of it, and then goes for like a leg drag type thing on the other side. I didn't quite see it in time yet. Steps over the top, tries and does like a quick punch through to weaken the effectiveness of the lasso on this side. Munis tries to regard, so he brings his foot completely out. This entire side is now completely disconnected. So Meregali lifts his left hand, punching it forwards, which is like a pseudo leg drag. Knows that he's not going to be able to get the leg drag, and if he commits around the side, the knee of Munis will just come in between. This outside leg will go over the top and attack this other knee in like a knee bar. So he immediately goes to the hips and lifts because he's in such a strong advantage, as you can see. And he's just like pummeling him over the top. And he just wants to pull his hips towards him now. Meregali wants to pull Munis's hips towards himself. And now, because he's in this really awkward position, but he's doing the same thing that Gordon Ryan's really good at, which is just not worrying about whack positions. If I was in this position for Meregali, I would feel kind of in danger. But Meregali just goes into it ho-hum because he knows his pressure is so good. It's going to be really hard for Munis to attack him with his current leg positioning. It's going to be really hard to move. And because his hips are starting to settle, all he has to do is go that way through the guard, and you'll get like a side control wall mount. He decides to back out of it so he can pressure and keep lifting the hips. Now again, this comes back to what I say all the time, which is not trading grips for better grips. His decision making there is really, really good, in the sense that he got this grip on the pants and he's not given it up yet, and he has a goal and he wants the goal, and he's still got this grip on the collar and he's still trying to rag him this way. And now this is a really hard thing for Munis to play, because this elbow chock jamming the knee down, the knee on the other side of Meregali jamming the knee down, this hand pulling up and over the top is exposing the back the whole time. And if there's any second of relaxation at all from Munis, he just gets flipped over the top and he loses. And so Meregali trades a grip for a better grip, better leverage, which is on the belt, as you can see. And then he's, it might not be better leverage, but because the belt's loose, but it would be if it were tight. And now, this leg is acting like a vice because this point is coming to this point and it's chomping in. So because Munis is so stacked up, he can't really move, but this is a bit more of a stalemate type position, because as soon as Meregali lifts his weight, Munis will be able to move his legs and his guard and get back into it. But Merengali's going, I don't care. I'm sitting on your diaphragm. You're folded in half. I'm breathing easy. I'm just going to sit on you. Happy days. No worries. It's a really bad spot for Munis here. And he's just sitting, readjusting slowly over time. Nice. And he's trying to go back around the corner, Meregali that is, back around the corner, to put pressure down this way to neutralize the efficacy of this grip and the lapel on the heel. He's also using his elbow to jam and his other hand to lift as he backsteps around the corner, because it's, again, a very difficult position to play underneath. Just having 100 kilos sit on your chest like this as you're compressed is really hard. And so they're both, again, doing a really good job of small incremental advance, but Merengali's just better at it, I think. Little bit of indecision there from Munis, which is what I was talking about with I hate it when I do that so much. What have I done wrong? There it is. A little bit of indecision here from Munis with his grip fighting. He seems to be like feeding it in and out, not really sure what grip he should take. I don't blame him here. It's a hard position to navigate. And you have to try something. So yeah, that movement that he just did there as well, lifting Meregali forward, would burn a lot of juice. That's a pretty big movement. That's pretty hard work. Probably pop a hernia if you're anyone else. And now Merengali's managed to unwind the position into a knee cut pass style position, as you can see. And he still has control of the hip. His knee is now slicing in. Munis has the lapel that he took before, but it turned out not to be a particularly strong grip at the end of the day after Meregali figured out the puzzle. But again, it's really hard to judge what will be and won't be good 20 moves down the track. So again, you just have to grab something, because even if it's a bad grip, it's better than no grip. And now this knee shield's coming in to try and keep him away, but Merengali's in a lot of advantage here now. And so he's going for, Munis tries to go for the underhook for the wrestle up, but immediately Merengali's on that, and because he still has the hip and this hand's going to come in, I don't think the wrestle up's going to work. And he sits heavy, gets the grip, Munis bails on it, trying to back away. Obviously very flexible, and manages a regard. Really, really, really nice work by both of them. That was a great exchange. And so from here, watch this hand. It will go in for the wrestle up, but again, he's not doing the Merino thing of fighting a lost position. Merino would be on that like a rabid dog, huffing and panting, and Meregali would just pass. But Munis here recognizes it's lost and just backs out, because he goes, right, this is not a good spot, I'm backing out. This elbow was the one that he had wrapped around the leg just a second ago. And his flexibility and ability to catch with the feet is insane. So he's on the hips now. His core strength is insane as well. So Meregali should, by all rights, have passed most people, because if you look where Munis's hips are versus his, all you have to do is throw the legs out of the way. So the gas tank on Munis here is insane, and his ability to do like little hip twist rotation actions, maintenance actions, is really good. Goes in for another wrestle up. Meregali doesn't allow it by pressuring in, and now he's in another knee cut style position. Now, this body positioning from Meregali is really, really good. The reason being is that if he were to commit the classical way for a knee cut, Munis has already got his legs, so he's going to be cooked. He's going to be putting himself into a loss. What he's doing with his other hand is he's going to be hunting underneath the head, and because his knee is attached to the hip, what will happen is he'll either use the flat of this foot to push down on Munis's right leg there, or he'll just raise the heel and go over the top. And so this body positioning here is absolutely king and pivotal right now in this moment for Meregali. But Munis manages to pull him up and over the top, so really well done. But there's no wrestle up now. Well, I was wrong. There was a wrestle up. Clearly, I was wrong. So Meregali is doing this really cool thing. Munis goes for the wrestle up here. He kicks tall to make space for the hand to go in. This elbow is propping up so he can come up and forward, and it's really hard for Meregali to stop this now. Meregali goes for a seatbelt wrap, which is the right thing to do. I personally think that Meregali should be winning here. This is a game-ending move now, and Munis has lost. I think that Munis only recovers because Meregali makes a mistake, which was letting go and allowing this rotation. That said, I didn't realize that Munis had this grip on the leg, which makes this different. So because Munis can push and rotate his hips around the corner, it's really hard for Meregali to follow. I don't think Meregali should have tried to follow, though, around the corner. I think that that's the mistake Meregali makes here. I think what he should do is instead go the other way into Munis's head. So what he does is he gets this grip here, and then he tries to go around the corner, because again, he sees the back and he goes, great, I'm attacking the back. But like I said in my first video, just because you can see the back doesn't mean you have the back. So instead, what he should be trying to do is, instead of coming around to his right, he should be coming around to his left. and he should be using his left elbow, flaring Munis's head, trying to collapse this elbow back down to the ground. I personally believe very strongly that this is a game-ending mistake from Munis. It's just Merengali's mistake saves Munis here and allows the wrestle up. And Munis straight away capitalizes and goes into a really, really nice lapel wrap. So Meregali is a little bit in trouble now. Munis is hunting for grips. Meregali is doing a good job of controlling. Munis here needs to be worried. As soon as Meregali gets this grip, this single leg position becomes prime suspect for an Uchimata attempt, because he's got this grip at the top of this grip. He'll push in. That was a terrible arrow. He'll push in, pull around the corner, hop around the corner. This foot that's pointed up, the toes will point down, the heel will point up, and you'll start hopping sideways and get a Uchimata, which he's really good at. But Munis does a good job of defending it, and then Meregali has to respect it, steps to the outside and tries to make space to break out of it. But exactly like I said, he goes for the Uchimata. Yep, almost gets it too. The only thing that saved Munis there was this hand at the back, stopping this leg of Merengali's from being as effective. Straight away, because they're both off balance now, you can see at the base, Merengali's weight is coming up, and most of it will be in this foot. So straight away, Munis goes for a sit down. Meregali reacts perfectly, immediately trying to step this foot out and not allow the roll backwards for the sacrifice. And so he almost gets it. Munis rips his leg out of the way, but because Meregali was on the ball, look at his good frame now. To move his hips back and up. And the counter throw. Nice. Because Munis is coming forwards and down, Meregali uses his left hand just to push him as he's on his way down. So he uses the momentum against him. Now that should count as Merengali's throw. Yep, it does. And that was a really, really, really nice sequence from Meregali. Again, game-ending mistake from Munis. That's the only real mistake he made, is going for that takedown there, because he didn't have enough control. And it's really not even a mistake. That would work on most people. I think just Merengali's seen the song and dance a million times before, and his reaction is really, really good, so that he can step out of it. And then he just had the grip to be able to push him down. And because he landed in such a strong body positioning, and just drags him to the ground, he immediately comes up, gets the points. Now, because he's so close as well, he's so close into the pressure pass, his chest is very close to Munis's chest, and his hand is so close to his head. Again, just like Gordon Ryan, he immediately capitalizes, chomps. And because he's chomped, because he is allowed to get this grip, the fight's over. And he just works in for, jams his head in on the other side, kills Munis's ability to use his elbow as a frame. This hand is still underneath the knee, so this hand is useless. And now if Munis were to shrimp, Meregali is going to pass. And so now he gets the crossface, drags his leg through, takes the mount, and wins. And I really, really like that positional patience, I should mention, from Meregali. Do you see how he plays by the rule set? Yeah. He waits for the points, but he gets the points right there, and he stays in this really tight, chomped position, locking down that space for quite a fair bit after the fact. Because if he were to let go now, Munis knows he's down on points, knows he's got like less than 2 minutes left, so he's going to go absolutely wild. So Merengali's just not allowing it. He'll just sit here for 2 minutes if he needs to. So obviously Munis is trying, but Meregali just advances the position, as you can see. This hand is not allowing the elbow back. This hand is not allowing the shoulder to drop. The elbow is threatening to cross the center line. It's just a really bad spot to be in. The foot positioning is absolutely gorgeous. The feet are tucked in underneath the hips. This is something Meregali does way better than Gordon Ryan, is this foot positioning rather than the shitty grapevines that you should never do. And then effectively cross-facing, like shoulder controlling the top shoulder, is just really, really, really detrimental. I can't see what's going on the other side, but if I had to guess, his right hand is looking to clear Munis's left, and you can see that incremental advance of the knees coming up the mount. Dominating performance. Right here. It was a very, very, very close fight between the two of them. Yep, so Munis is doing his best. Meregali doesn't have the underhook yet, but he's just contenting himself to take a crossface. He has threats now of coming to the other side of the head, using this side of his head to push in for a head and arm choke. We'll just have to see what he does. He can finish this any number of ways, yeah, so he's looking for that head and arm choke now. Munis is doing a good job of trying to pull him back down his body and not allow it to happen. And so he gives up on the attack and just goes back for the crush, just putting pressure in through the opponent. Again, this is probably the best decision to make because last 30 seconds, the opponent on bottom, if they get out, might go absolutely spastic. And if you go, great, I've only got 30 seconds left, it's fine. You can fall into the trap of getting complacent, and then you might get surprise subbed by a jumping guillotine or something. And so pressuring the position and just controlling for 30 seconds is by far the best decision to make. I think, though, that Meregali wanted all submission finishes, though, so he's still hunting for submissions as best he can. But I really like what he's doing. He's not risking the positional advantage he has for a vainglorious attempt at a submission. Because you know what looks better than an all submission record, Evan? 2 gold medals. 2 gold medals. 2 gold medals looks the best.
Well, maybe there's one of Dano's ethoses like you with the position over submission.
As it should be. And just like this, he gets pushed off the top, but he knows it doesn't matter. He's just being careful now with his foot fighting, so he doesn't get surprise slapped on for a submission, and then the time runs out and he wins. Dust off the crown.
Apparently.
Yeah. Look, I called myself D-list from a black belt. That's a straight rip from Craig Jones. Authenticity does have a price, Evan. So I'm not one to judge. Besides, he probably is the best gi grappler in the planet right now. Anyway.
So the rating goes.
So the rating goes. Now, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in again. I'm going to try and add some timestamps because I received some really good feedback and suggestions on that. I'll try and add some timestamps in. If I can figure out how that works, I'll do that for this video. And I'm hoping to be able to do it for the previous 3. Thank you so much, guys, for your support. I really appreciate it. Once again, if you really enjoyed the content, please consider giving me a subscribe. I really, really want to grow this channel and become like quite a good analyzer of jiu-jitsu matches for you guys to break it down properly and hopefully help you improve your games. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next time.